Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video, and today I'm participating in the Altenew March blog hop, and I'm going to be using a couple different steps by them. The first one is the layered cupcake, and then garden treasures, family matters, and handmade tags. So we're going to be doing a lot of combining, and I wanted to show you here just some two ideas that I had stamped out. I ended up going ahead and doing the flower cupcake today because flowers. I mean, pretty much that's it. I'm ready for spring, and but I did stamp out the other one, and I will be coloring it maybe later this month or early next month. So anyway, in order to make this a one layer card, I need to do some masking. I cut masks for all of the things that I'm going to be stamping, and because I did that, I can use my cupcake mask to put that down on my paper and get the placement for the other stamps that will be on top just perfect and not really even have to stress about it. So I want these flowers to kind of be the decoration on my cupcake. I'm stamping in Intense Black ink by Simon Says Stamp because it is Copic safe. And then I'm going to go ahead and mask that. I'm going to put the cupcake down again so that I can get the flowers that will be laying kind of on the countertop in front of my cupcake down. And then I will mask all of those flowers and then do the cupcake. So everything is masked here except for the flower on the far left, because I just wanted to add a little bit of interest. In the handmade tags, there's a polka dot and a stripe background, which are perfect for the tag dies that are also included in this release. But I'm just trying to, use what I got and use it a little bit different. So I'm going to use a light gray ink just to add a really subtle background behind my cupcake. So this stripe is not a perfect stripe. It's a little bit distressed. It's got a lot of character, and I just really liked it and wanted to include it in the card. So it's just about half the size of a card, so I'm just going to go ahead and stamp it twice to get full coverage. Removed all of my masks, and then I'm going to move on to the Copic coloring. So I chose the E40s because they are a cooler gray. They're not so grayed out like the E70s, but the 40s are a really good, kind of like a neutral brown. And here, in this layered cupcake set, you can stamp these cupcakes, and it will do all of the shading for you absolutely perfectly, and they're totally gorgeous, and the little line-up sheet on the back makes it super easy. But I like to color, so I always go straight for those outline images so that I can color them up with my Copics, because that makes me happy. So basically I'm just adding in shading where that icing would kind of be folding in on itself, where the creases and crevices would be, and I'm also adding in the shadows next to the flowers on the top. I typically color everything if my light source was in the top right hand corner, and that is also how I colored this image. So the shadows will be to the bottom left under any of the objects, i.e. flowers, leaves, things of that nature. For the icing, I didn't pay too much attention to the light source necessarily. I was trying to be very light-handed in those creases because there is not a ton of surface area here. So you want to use a really light hand in just the tip of your marker so that you do have a deep shadow, but that you also are able to maintain a highlight, because those contrasts, those differences, is what's going to give you some depth in your image. It's also why I'm only using 3 colors, where typically on my channel you see me use 4. There just wasn't enough real estate here to warrant 4 colors, and I was already super nervous about being too heavy-handed with my darks, so I wasn't going to bring in a 4th color to just kind of complicate things. So again, I'm just going through, and with the darkest color, I'm not adding shading to every single one of the lines. There'll be more shading on the left-hand side of the image than on the right, just because of those, that light source that I was telling you about. With it being in the top right, the right-hand side of the cupcake would be a little bit lighter. And I find it helpful to turn my paper when I'm trying to just get into little areas. Don't be afraid to turn your paper. I once had a friend on retreat, we were talking, and she was having a really hard time flicking and getting good blending. And I said, turn your paper upside down. Like, it's easier for me to flick away from myself than it is for me to flick toward myself. And she was like, huh, I never even thought about that. So don't feel like you have to color this image straight up and down. I mean, you guys you know, you watch my videos, and even in my videos, I turn them. I don't want to make it difficult for you guys to see what I'm doing, but I also want to be happy with my image at the end of the day. So then once I go through to the darkest, I'm going to go back out to the lightest. That's typically how I blend my colors. And these E40s blend really, really nicely together. But again, just trying to maintain some of that white space for my highlight. Once that's done, I picked out a couple of warmer E colors, because typically once you bake a cupcake, even a white cake or a yellow cake, they are brown on top. So I wanted it to be a vanilla cupcake, so I went with with the E50, but then I also, you know, wanted it to look accurate. So I'm adding some shading behind the cupcake liner, because those typically stick out and away from cupcakes. And then I'm also adding some shading underneath where that icing is, because the icing would cast a shadow on top of the cupcake. Again, the left is darker than the right-hand side because of that light source. And then this was just a very little area, so didn't take a ton of time. For the cupcake liner, I've been really trying to, I guess I've been really trying to just kind of span out and do things, use colors I wouldn't normally use. And I typically go for my cool grays. That's where my happy place is. I like the more blue undertones in them. So this time I opted for the warms. It didn't turn out bad. So I'm adding shading into like every other line, because some of these are going to be peaks and some of them are going to be valleys. All of the lines can't be valleys and all of the lines can't be peaks. So I just alternated every other one. And then I'm going to go directly back over the line of the darkest color with my lightest color, or with my medium color, and then with my lightest color. Again, I'm trying to leave some white space. On the left, I'm filling in more of the area with my mid-tone, and then also a little bit along the bottom. That would be, the bottom of objects tend to be slightly darker as well. And trying, again, to leave that white space. There is even less real estate here than there is in that icing. And I did feel like it got over blended a bit, so I'm going back in with that darkest color and just re-adding that where it would be the darkest. And then for these flowers. So this card is actually for my mama's birthday. And that Family Matters set like totally made it perfect. Perfect sentiment. But my mom likes blues, blue purples, so that's how I ended up choosing the BVs for my flowers. I did all of them the same, but on the cupcake I was still trying to kind of dope it out. So I didn't show you that when I showed you just the one large one. It's easier to see anyway. So I filled it all in with my lightest color, and then I'm going to do some light flicking motions from the center. On the ones up top, I didn't go as dark as a BV08 because originally I thought that it would maybe be a little bit too much. But then as I was coloring, I realized that it wasn't enough. So I did go back in. You saw me add in that BV08 to the flowers up top, and then I did that as well with the rest of them. And then just like I usually do, lightest to darkest, darkest back out to my lightest. And originally I thought that I was just going to be coloring in the centers with the Y21, which I think I actually failed to show you. My bad. I'm going to go back in and add some shading to that later on. So I went ahead and colored in all of the flowers, and then there's me adding that extra shading. I just used the E55 that I used for the actual body of the cupcake and just run around the edges to give it a little bit more depth. I picked a couple of these Y greens are not what I typically go for. These are like my Christmas Y greens. Y greens, really. Anyway, YGs. They're like my Christmas YGs. But I just did a minimal shading from the center out toward the edges. I wasn't being careful to blend them. I just wanted them to have a little bit of texture. And again, just trying, something different. I felt like the brights that I would normally use would probably be a little bit too much with all of the warmer colors that I had going on here. And then, so my cupcake isn't just floating in thin air. I'm using the same ease that I used for the actual frosting to kind of build up a little bit of a countertop. Again, not being terribly careful about the blending. And I took the darkest color, like 3/4 of the way down, blended with my mid-tone over that, and then I'm going to just add a very little bit of the lightest color to make sure everything is just kind of blended. And then we're going to go in with the white gel pen. So originally I did some white dots. You really could not see too many of them, so could probably skip that step if you wanted to. But the important part of the white gel pen is just accenting those highlights in the frosting. And then I'm also going to accent the highlights that are in the cupcake liner. And this really does make a world of difference. So whatever white gel pen strikes your fancy, I use a Jelly Roll. I know a lot of other people use the Signo. Just whatever works for you. You should really get one. They're great for such details, and they can really add a lot of interest, and just those little details make such a difference, especially if you're a clean and simple card maker. So I always outline all of my images because it makes my colors go pop and it makes me happy. I do that. I outlined everything. Also, shimmer makes me happy, super, super happy. So I'm going to add that in just on top of the flowers, and then I'm going to start stamping the sentiment. So I pulled out my Misty to stamp the mother part of it, and if I was using the regular, this is the mini Misty, if I was using the regular size Misty, I would have been able to stamp the other part of my sentiment in it as well. But because it was so long and I was stacking it, I could not do that. So if you have a regular size Misty, you can totally do that step in here. And then I'm just going to use a Post-it to kind of block off each side of the sentiment so that I can stamp it. I know Jennifer cuts hers. I just don't have the nerve to do it. So this is the way that I get around it. And the sentiment is going to say, I'm so lucky to have you as a mother. And then on the inside, it will say, everything I am is because of you. And in my life, that is completely true. Everything that I am, every good thing that I am is from my mama, for sure. I would not be able to get through my regular everyday life without her. She's wonderful, and I'm so blessed that she's my mom. And so we're going to be celebrating her birthday coming up here, and this is the entire card. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you guys learned a little bit of something, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.